Yeah. So we start today's webinar. So respected senior members of INS and friends, I extend my warm welcome to all the INS members who have joined today for this another webinar. On behalf of INS, thank one and all for joining today. The objective of this webinar series is to inform members on all the developments in nuclear science and engineering. The thrust is also to reach out to the general public through our YouTube channel about the availability, dependability, efficiency, and green source of nuclear energy, in addition to sustainability in the background of climate change, fuel crisis, war, and impending tsunami, and so many design bases and beyond design bases accidents. So today we have with us Shri G R Srinivasan sir, former director project NPCIL and former vice chairman AERB and advisor nuclear power business GRM infrastructure company. Sir, on behalf of INS and on my own behalf, I welcome you, sir, and I thank you for agreeing to give a talk to us on this platform. So he's going to talk to us on nuclear powers, the global energy transition, global and Indian nuclear scenarios. So we all know how important is the contribution of nuclear today. The world is going through a very serious crisis of fuel to sustain life and livelihood. The serious climate change and then ongoing war has made world leaders to wake up to the changing transitions and underlying consequences. Many studies have been carried out to estimate the energy scenario and power scenario in 2030, 2050, and 2070. What appears today as renewable energy would be the major source of energy, but then this is going to drastically change according to those studies in 1950 and 1970. In all these studies, nuclear is projected to be playing an important role as an affordable energy. Countries who have shown slowed down on or shut down nuclear are having a rethinking on that policy. New type of reactor design are getting approvals. They are getting go ahead for installation. Indian plan is also going strong as a well-placed three-stage program. The fleet mode plants are poised to take up the center stage for the supply of reactor, and the supply of reactor by foreign collaboration is progressing well. As we summarized in our INS annual conference, NPCIL is ready with the design, ready with the funds, ready with the approvals, and ready with the sites for speedy deployment. What is needed is the industry to match with the stringent requirement without any delay. With the newer mines, there could be possibility of reactors operating within or outside the IAEA safeguard. Those days may not be far away. So Shri Srinivasan is going to talk to us more on all this. Sir, we are very happy to have you with us today on this webinar series, which is 34th in the number. So before I invite him to give his talk, I request our President S.K. Mehta to give his opening remark, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ramarao. GR, welcome. You're looking as smart as you used to be. And I'm sure we are all up to date with all the information that we have.
Yeah.
This is the time when the atmosphere for the nuclear energy acceptance is very, very much better than what we used to have earlier. I think it's a time for us to take off, and I'm sure your talk will initiate that process. So welcome, all the best to you.
Thank you. Good evening to all. Thank you, Mr. Ramarao and Mr. Mehta.
Sir.
Thank INS for giving an opportunity for this webinar. I'll have to rush a little bit, and I hope I can carry you all. India is ahead of the world in many areas, and I have to learn in some other areas. I will bring out those in which we are ahead. I am also giving some fundamentals because there are many non-nuclear INS members. The first thing I want to start is what politicians, what policymakers, what public acceptance agencies keep asking. Why nuclear? I might have to spend a little bit more on these particular two PPTs. Starting from the first one, the green power. Nuclear is a green power. Renewable is also a green power, but nuclear is a bulk green power. Since 1970, 74 gigatons of CO2 has been avoided by the nuclear. The Paris Agreement and climate change, which I'll be explaining a little later, has specified the limit on the generation unit on the emission of CO2. The limit they have put is 50 grams CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour. And mind you, this limit is on the whole cycle, not just the power generator. For coal, it is 888, for gas, 499, for nuclear, 29, well within the Paris limits. Nuclear has a high capacity factor, 80 to 90%, almost 24/7 into 365. In fact, the 100 nuclear power plants in US, an average capacity factor is 90% or above in the last 7 or 8 years. Kaiga ran for 962 days, as you all know. Darlington plant ran for more than 100 days. We had 35 runs of more than 1 year. I will define, in my opinion, what is the quality power. The quality power is it should have a high capacity factor and it should have a continuous run. Many plants do have a high capacity factor, but they have several outages of half a day, 1 day in between. These outages are very hard on the grid. And if the grid fails, as you know, many chemical plants and other plants are out for 2 or 3 days. So quality power, you should have a high capacity factor as well as continuous runs. It should stand like a rock on grid disturbances. It should be a grid stabilizer. It should be able to enable the grid to maintain the voltage and frequency. Once, in fact, I was traveling from Delhi to Bombay. It goes via our nuclear power station at Kota as well as Udaipur. There was a big northern grid power failure. I could only see Udaipur being lit because it got islanded with the Rajasthan nuclear power station. This is what I call is the quality of power. Coming to 1.3, huge amount of power, 1650 megawatt is the capacity of EPR units. These are silent giants. You will not know from the noise or from the look whether a nuclear power plant is operating or not. Only there will be a white mist on the cooling tower. But inside the nuclear power plant, more than 1 trillion uranium atoms are splitting every second. They are incredibly safe. They are, in fact, the safest source. It's not by IAEA, it's not by anybody else. It is the fact that has been borne out by World Health Organization. In the 17,400 years of operation, it has established satisfactory safety. In fact, if you reckon all the reactors, it's more than 50,000 reactor years. The fatalities in nuclear power plant is 0.07 deaths per terawatt power megawatts. Coal, it is 25, oil, it is 18. How do you define pollution? In my opinion, pollution is the pollutant from a particular industry and how much of that pollutant it adds to the background. For fossil plants, the pollutant is CO2 and it adds 25% to the natural background. For reactors, it is radiation, but it adds less than 0.8% to the already existing natural background, which you will get anyway, whether nuclear power plants are operating or not. In fact, coal plants, especially the higher ones, emit more radiation than nuclear power plants. I want to spend just about a few seconds on linear no threshold concept. This is an illogical concept. It's just like comparing somebody who is jumping from 100 feet and another who is jumping 1 foot 100 times. They're not the same. In fact, we are all radioactive. We have potassium, we irradiate each other. Radioactivity is something which is part of our life. There are areas in Kerala and Iran where the background radiation is very high, and the studies indicate there is no increase in the incidence of cancer in those areas. How do we allow 3 REMs per year by the regulatory body if you are thinking about L&T? So I feel that L&T is not the one. It doesn't give credit to the recovery that the bodies can make. It's competitive in majority cases. In fact, I would put the capital cost of nuclear not crore per megawatt, but crore per megawatt hours that is being delivered. This is the right comparison. In fact, we should go for the levelized cost of energy. It is $55 per megawatt hour for nuclear, 100 for coal, 80 to 110 for wind, 40 to 80 for solar, and 80 for gas. Coming to India, the tariff of nuclear is 97 to 394, coal 375 to 529, natural gas 423 to 439, LNG 920 to 1288, hydro 79 to 581. In fact, Tarapur is very comparable to hydro cost. We must also see the system cost, which is very high for renewables, and also give credit to the value. If somebody wants to go from place A to place B, he can go by cycle, he can go by motorbike, he can go by car, he can go by train, he can go by plane. Cycle is the cheapest, but very few people buy cycle. They all buy car or other things. It's because it's got higher value. The low fuel cost, in fact, nuclear is insensitive to any increase or decrease in the cost of the fuel. Coal prices will go up. And as per the climate agreement which India is signing, it is phase down of the fossil plants, not phase out. The phase out is at 2070. So we have to be living with coal for some time, and the coal prices are continuously going up. If India and China keep buying coal from other countries, I won't be surprised if a COPEC is formed, similar to OPEC. Better energy independence and security, one can stock nuclear fuel, and if reprocessing is there, it really multiplies the energy that can be supplied. India, in our agreement, has signed a lifetime supply for their power plants which are being imported. The government is stocking 10 years stock. For India, plutonium and thorium will give immense energy. So nuclear facilitates energy security. High megawatt per unit area. In fact, this is very less for nuclear because of the energy density. If you want to compare the energy density, if you take 1 kg of various material, which is energizing a 100-watt load, coal will last for 3.1 days, whereas nuclear will last for 25,700 years. The area for per megawatt for nuclear is 13, wind 71, solar 44, hydro 315. Area is very critical for some area of some countries, including India. What about waste, pollution, decommissioning? These are internalized for the nuclear. In fact, the volume of waste is not that much. But I do agree that they are going to last for thousands of years. If for US nuclear power plants, which are 100 in number, which supplies 20% of the nuclear of the power demand in US, and if they run for 20 years, you will be filling a football ground only up to 20 feet. And if it is a closed cycle, it will be still less. In fact, many new nuclear power plants can even run on waste. The solar waste is not solved yet. We keep telling that waste management is not solved for nuclear, but for solar too, it is not solved. There is a lot of toxic waste. Recycling of the solar waste is not yet designed or technologically achieved. These nuclear power plants can be located near the load center. In fact, if they are away from coal plants, it is cheaper. Small modular reactors can be located even in dense population. US NRC has approved new scales formula for deciding the emergency planning zone. In fact, PFBR doesn't even require containment, but one has to put it for other reasons. Generator 3 and generator 3 plus reactors, the objective is none or minimum emergency countermeasures, even in case of severe accidents. In fact, we must get rid of the sterilized zone, which we have. Next, please. Next. Yeah. It satisfies sustainable development goals. I will just point out two goals. One is we shouldn't damage the environment. Nuclear eminently does. We will explain it later. The other one is called intergenerational equity. We should not consume all the resources in our generation.
Video is not moving. Video is not moving. You go to the next slide.
My slide is moved. It is
Hello?
like-
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
moved.
Okay.
Okay, please go ahead, sir.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, please.
Continue. Yeah. We are in
1.12.
sorry. No, we are in the intergenerational equity in 1.12. In fact, thorium, as you all know, is fertile, and we make it fissionable. Means to the next generation, we are giving more resources than what they are able to achieve. Even in considering 1.13, even during pandemic, almost all the nuclear power plants in the world ran because of lower number of persons per megawatt hour. I must say, in continuation is 1.2, 1.14, nuclear is almost renewable. If you take, for example, the uranium availability in sea, there is 4 billion tons of uranium in seawater, which can run 1,000 megawatt reactors for 100,000 years. And when fusion comes, there is endless availability of energy. I would call that's why I call nuclear as renewable. Transportation for the quota plant of 200 megawatts, I would be able to carry the fuel required for one day in my first class compartment. Whereas for quota thermal of equal capacity, 200 wagons of by the train had to be brought. Coming to 1.16, energy on E output by E input, which is energy return and energy invested. This is a very important input. For renewable, it is 1.6 to 28. For coal, it is 30. For hydro, it is 35. For LWR, it is 75. For molten salt reactor, it is 2,000. I've been
20,000.
Right, 20,000. But some people have pointed out that you must have a drastic mistake or a spelling mistake so that if somebody is sleeping, he will be woken up. So the next point, I'm spending a little bit more time on this.
Yeah.
High life, in fact, Director General of IAEA says even 100 years, whereas the life of renewable is 25 years. That means you have to install 3 times the renewables in the same time as the nuclear power plant lasts. That means 3 times the capital cost. These are the factors which one must consider when you calculate the capital cost. In US, there has been extension of some of the reactors even up to 80 years. But as an engineer, I want to see, but I may not live that long. I want to see a completed reactor of 80 years operating safely and reliably. Then only I'll agree it is 80 years life. But I do feel that life is quite much longer than any other power plant. They are eco-friendly. There is a bird sanctuary near Kaiga plant. The flora and fauna is safe. I have seen birds sitting on the dome when the nuclear power plant is operating at full power. The fish catch in Rana Pratap Sagar has increased from the time the Rajasthan plant started operating. Considering the high EROI, energy return investment for renewable 2 to 19, gas 28, coal 30, hydro plant 35 to 48, nuclear 75. So we cannot have the climate change mitigation without nuclear. I'll explain this further. And in fact, I understand that in Africa, even adaptation to the climate change is being facilitated by nuclear. Another important point that needs to be considered is the important non-grid uses of nuclear, hydrogen production, desalination, naval. In fact, HTGR, high temperature gas reactor, can produce 1000 degrees C and can be used as process heat to supply chemical, petrochemical, and steel plants. In fact, these plants are very hard to decarbonize. In fact, big companies like Dow Chemicals, ArcelorMittal, even Elon Musk and Bill Gates are investing in nuclear because they want to use these nuclear plants in their own factories. Next, please.
Yes, sir.
Confused.
It is changed, sir.
I should have a balanced approach. I should also bring out issues with nuclear. It is born with a bomb. Proliferation problem and nuclear security has to be in high gear. There have been 3 accidents, major ones, other ones also, but it has got cross-boundary impact, which many other plants do not have. Unfortunately, the nuclear plant being born with a bomb is a big public acceptance situation. High-level radioactive waste, I will talk a little bit later. High capital cost. When you compare it with megawatt hours, it's not really high. Safety is a question of perception and fear of the unknown. Project delays, people often ask whether nuclear is a 22nd century solution to your 20th century problem we are trying to fix in 21st century. Next. Next, please.
Yes, sir.
Low efficiency. Combined cycle is 62%. Supercritical fossil plant 55. Fast reactor and PWR 40. Boiling water reactor 34 and PHWR 30 to 34. This is a definite disadvantage. Public acceptance and lifetime commitment, it's a commitment from cradle to grave. This is, once you enter into nuclear, you cannot just get out. And there is doubts on sustainability. Public acceptance, yes, of course. On sustainability, they say that until the waste management problem is solved, nuclear is not sustainable. I also feel that we should have a faster introduction of advanced reactor, advanced fuel cycles, yes, and small modular reactors. In fact, if you do not introduce them fast, we're going to lose the opportunity. In fact, advanced reactors are being designed, and there is also a lot of new fuel which is coming in. Many of them are those which will not melt down. And these things, unfortunately, is taking a lot of time. And these are the ones which are required to help the climate change. Next slide, please.
Yes.
Quickly on Indian scenario. India and thorium. On 3 stage, everybody knows about it. It's tailor-made for India. Asking India not to use thorium is just like asking Arab people not to use oil. Thorium is self-stabilizing, meltdown unlikely, better stability on irradiation. This permits flexibility in fuel element design. 1% waste with respect to when compared to uranium, and also only 500 years half-life. 1 ton of thorium gives equivalent to 200 tons of uranium and 35 lakh tons of coal. Better proliferation. Thorium cycle uses 99% of fuel. Mining is less hazardous. High thermal conductivity and high melting point, far more abundant globally. Thorium fuel reactors can be operated even at atmospheric pressure. India has 25 to 35% of world thorium. It can give 3,58,000 gigawatt years. The fluoride salts with thorium are much safer with a very high boiling point. Thorium reactors can also be used for actinide burning. There are issues, of course. Thorium is fertile, not fissile. Uranium-232 along with uranium-233 is extremely radioactive. Fuel manufacturing is very complicated and reprocessing is costlier. India, in fact, has got the only uranium-233 reactors in the world in the form of Kamini. We had a difficult middle period. I want to just explain a little bit about it. The embargo followed after Buddha smiled in 1974. Tarapur and Rajasthan plant had not even stabilized. Design intents on several items were not known. Sanath and others will realize this. RAPS-1 was the toughest reactor to operate. Indigenization cells were set up in site and headquarters. There are several issues which cropped up: end-shield cracks, map moderator leak, coolant channel issues. Tarapur fuel was stopped. Tarapur inspection of reactor vessel was a very challenging task. But necessity is the mother of invention. We came out stronger and never looked back afterwards. Success story of Indian PHWers, fondly called Indus as against Candus of Canada. In fact, I have taken out from Sanath Kumar's paper on this. We started standardizing from Narora onwards. In fact, this is the global practice. Standardizing is done only on the 3rd or 4th generation of reactors. I will talk about standardizing a little later. Finally, we have now got the cheapest nuclear power plant in the world, high capacity factor, continuous run, safe, viable, secure, reliable units. I must give credit because the whole cycle has been indigenized, not just the power plant. We need fuel, we need D2O. We have R&D research from BRC. ECL has produced equipment which no others are able to produce. AMD, UCL, IRE, and many other agencies. These are all responsible for the success story of Indian PHWRs. We have now almost completing 600 reactor years in a very satisfactory manner. Indigenization and export potential. Dr. Babar sowed the seeds of indigenous then. As long ago as RAPS, we had indigenization. In fact, Tarapur is very different because it is a turnkey project. Rajasthan plant was not a turnkey project. Hindustan Construction Company built the reactor building. In fact, with the excess concrete, they built the tennis court also, which is my favorite game. We have 4 objectives chronologically for indigenization. The first one is, as I mentioned, to compensate for the effect of embargo, as well as continue manufacturing for the 3-stage program. PFBR is totally indigenous. The next is localization of imported plants. And the next one is manufacture for 700 megawatt units, which is already on. And the last one is to get ready for export. I am talking not only about manufacturing, but also on EPC contracts. India is taking a very active part in the VVER that is being built in Bangladesh. Who says there is no excellence in India? This excellence is the one which enabled us to go through this difficult medical period. Take a Kirana shop in a village of 1,000 people. Nobody goes back from his shop without getting what he wants. He knows which person uses which toilet soap, which shampoo. He also maintains a big Udar list where people pay only at the end of the month. He stocks all materials and he has got hardly 2 or 3 people. If this is not excellence, what else is excellence? Once a contract is made for making new equipment for the first time, the barriers between the purchaser and the vendor vanished and everybody worked together. This has been a great learning and achieving experience. So there is a certain degree of national competence, which is a source of great strength and which helped us to win. The fact that for 1,000 days, Indian manufactured equipment ran without even being looked at speaks volumes of the quality and reliability of the Indian manufactured equipment. Next, please.
Yes.
Before I go to the next one, I would like to we are back to the previous one. Sorry, I have not finished the previous one. Can you go back to the previous one?
Yeah.
Namarao? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I have we have a big export potential too. In fact, I have made we have exported heavy water, very critical item cryostat has been supplied to the ITER by L&T, and Avarsala also is supplying. We have a tripartite agreement with Russia and Bangladesh to take part in the VVR being built there. Energy membership will help. I worked out 4 models for export. If it comes up in future, which is a consortium and doing the Indian Atomic Industrial Forum. Export controls are in place. The SCOMET list has been issued in the Gazette. Coming to nuclear deal, it was not arrived at overnight, as everybody knows. We stuck to our stand for 30 years. It's a win-win situation. There are many benefits which came. Uranium is no more a constraint. The capacity factor, which was lingering around 50%, rose to 80% from the time we could import uranium. Imported reactors also are there. Of course, as of now, only the VVER plants have been imported. I must say that Dr. Baba was not against import, and it is not definitely a part of 3-stage program, but it's an additionality. He did not mind getting Tarapur imported. In fact, I even noted down that his car number is 3333. The first 3 is for 3-stage program and the last 3 is for additionality through imported reactors. Fleet mode is a very pleasant situation that the fleet mode has been ordered by the government. And here is why the standardization helps. Standardization results in faster project completion because there is assembly line manufacture with the bulk order. It ends up cheaper, faster licensing because it is a repeat design. Only any changes in the design or site characteristics need to be considered. Public acceptance is better for standardized units. However, standardizing can be done only if we are going to build a lot of reactors. For example, France standardized on N3 type of reactors, and Westinghouse also standardized on some of their reactors. But there is one problem with nuclear and standardization. There is an argument, standardization versus upgradation. Nuclear has a trait to upgrade after each incident or accident or experience feedback. and this sometimes come in the way of standardization. 700 megawatts and VVR can be on fleet mode. The challenge, however, is to meet the 15,000 crores per year that need to be spent. When I was there, we were struggling to spend 1,000 crores. But I am sure all the agencies who are at work now will be able to meet this challenge. Next, 1 minute. Future and sorry, go back,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
I'm sorry to trouble you.
No, not an issue.
Future and far future, fleet mode will continue. PFBRs will have more of them. Maybe more imported reactors. I want to say that we should not worry about the cost of initial imports. It has been found the world over that the fourth unit costs only 60% of the first unit. In our contract, we are going to put in a clause for localization or indigenization of equipment gradually. We can have third-party contract like what we are doing in Bangladesh. Ultimately, we can even probably export. The initial money will get amortized. I understand China bought the AP1000 for 18 crores per megawatt a decade ago, which was a prohibitive cost at that time. But now they are ready to export Westinghouse type of reactors. Advantages and disadvantage of PHWRs, very quick running because I'm running out of time. PHWR, as you all know, will be the sheet anchor of our 3-stage program, at least up to the second stage. One of the safest due to huge core catcher. The core catcher is 200 tons of heavy water in the moderator system and 400 tons of heavy water in the calandria. In fact, 700 megawatt units are considered as a generation 3+ reactor. Mechanical arrangement renders more thermal neutrons. Thermosiphon is almost passive. High neutron generation time, long prompt neutron lifetime, lower consequences due to short bundle length, low fissile content, on-power fueling. We can operate 962 days or 1,000 days. On-power detection and removal of failed fuel, which cannot be done in light water reactors. Reactivity mechanism doesn't have ejection problem because it is in the low pressure moderator area. Anticipated transient without scram need not be considered due to two independent diverse shutdown system. For PHWR, dual failures are postulated, unlike other reactors. We can work on many fuels, natural uranium, thorium, enriched uranium, MOX fuel, do pick, where waste from or used fuel from PWRs can be used. Better resistance to sabotage, easier decommissioning. It can be used for actinide burning, longer life. The pressure barrier, which is coolant channel, unlike pressure vessel in light water reactors, gets replaced every 25 to 30 years. More maneuverable, very long station blackout capability. There are issues, of course. Heavy water is costly, tritium is cumbersome. More used fuel, slightly positive void coefficient. I understand Argentina has solved this problem. US NRC doesn't give license to PHWR because of this reason. But I have a feeling they are making a mole out of mountain out of a mole in this. LWR power distribution is highly predictable, which is not the case with PHWR. Xenon poised problem is there. Slower to reach full power and initial startup. Larger core due to lesser power density needs zonal control. Now, just quickly on global scenario. What is the time? Next one.
25 minutes. We have 25 minutes more.
25, yeah, okay. Yeah, I will do that. Can you go to the next one? Faster now, in fact. In 1942, Enrico Fermi built a reactor called the Chicago Pile, which was in fact built in a squash court, the floor of a squash court. Unfortunately, it was built with an idea to produce weapons. I hear a joke many times that Russians telling Americans that your Germans are better than our Germans. But nuclear power was discovered, not invented. 2 billion years ago in Gabon, Africa, 17 reactors operated for 1 million years. In fact, these reactors hold the record for the longest run. One important fact that emerged from these reactors is high-level radioactive waste did not leach out until now. Queen Elizabeth is always called the Queen of Nuclear Age because it exactly coincides with the 7 decades of nuclear age. She was there from 1952 to 2022. Now 458 reactors have come down to 439. I won't go into details of how many reactors of each type we have. There has been 3 accidents I will cover a little bit later. Generation 1 to 4 is something which everybody knows, so I will skip that. Harmonic program envisages 25% share in global electricity. Then small modular reactors, small, less than 300 megawatt modular reactors. These are going to be the one which probably lead the renaissance, which I'll talk about a little later. If any country has less than 10,000 megawatts installed capacity, they cannot go for a bigger reactor because it will collapse the grid each time the reactor trips. It is affordable. Many countries cannot afford a big reactor. And many developed countries only have 0.5% or 1% increase in the demand, which they can cope up with modular reactors. But there are more than 80 designs, and I am a little bit upset why it should come only in 2027, which is what is planned. And there are challenges. Are the current standards applicable to this? We have to work out new standards. Supply chain problem could be there. There are too many of them. People people don't like untested reactors. Transportation is a problem because advanced reactor and small reactor process used fuel for their fuel. But as I told, they will definitely lead the renaissance. Fast reactors, they had a sinusoidal wave. In fact, initially they were afraid that uranium will not be available, so they went for thorium reactors. But once uranium shortage was not there, they went for other reactors because other reactors can produce plutonium, which they wanted for the weapon. So fast reactors have only 400 reactor years as against 17,400 for other reactors. The only country which has commercial operating fast reactors is Russia with the BN series. Russia, China, and India never stopped their fast reactor program. But fast reactors will get revived. 4 out of the 6 generation 4 reactors, gas-cooled reactor, sodium fast reactors, lead-cooled reactor, molten salt reactors are all of fast reactor type. Very high temperature reactor and supercritical reactor are also added. Fusion, I think I'll skip because we're running out of time. Now, about advanced fuels and advanced reactors. As I told earlier, they are doing a lot of research in accident-tolerant fuel, HALEU, high assay, low enriched uranium, tristructural isotopic, which is like kernels, anneal. Russia has made a lot of new reactors, a new fuel.
Next slide.
Russia is dominating the enrichment market, and the West is trying to get away from it by manufacturing advanced fuels. In fact, many of them are going for laser enrichment because it is much faster and better than centrifuge type of ones. But I am sure this will be in the critical path, and we will have problem in advance there. On INES scale, everybody knows about it. So I will skip that. In fact, 0 to 3 are incidents, 4 to 7 are accidents. TMI is number 5, accident with wider consequences. Other 2, the Chernobyl and this one are 7, widespread health environment. In Chernobyl, 56 people died, 34 of them in firefighting. A conservative estimate over the generation is 5,000 people. In a dam burst in China, 171,600 people died. people started preparing emergency operating procedures. We prepared it in 1978, 1 year before TMI. In fact, we realized there is a gap between operating procedures and emergency preparedness procedures, and we filled it up with EOPs and accident management procedures. We called EOPs as OPEX, Operation Procedure on Emergency Conditions. Defense in depth has got through a big change, and there are 5 levels now. Safety culture, and Vano was born after Chernobyl. There are a lot of classical definition of safety culture. My definition is everybody in an organization does the right thing with respect to safety when nobody is looking at them. Fukushima, there were no passive systems, and so passive systems are going to come. And multi-unit accident is a problem. Next. Fukushima has a large volume of 1.19 million cubic meters. Many people ask questions which are more politically motivated. They say that no tritium-laden water should not be discharged into Pacific Ocean. Pacific Ocean has got 19 billion curies of rubidium-87, 600 million curies of uranium, 200 billion curies of potassium, 10 million curies of tritium, of course, all well dispersed. IAEA has approved the discharge, and the level is below the permissible level for tritium, and dilute and disperse, which is the recognized process, is adopted. Can these accidents take place in India? These are the frequently asked questions. I'll try to answer it. I'll come back to this nuclear accident. Anywhere is accident everywhere. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. Previous one. Yeah. To 5.7, we did a lot of modification in 2005, which the world did in 2011 after the Fukushima accident. In 2005, we raised all the equipment, safety equipment above the flood level. We re-reviewed all the older reactor for seismic design. All independent redundant safety trains were physically separated. We introduced what is called GRAB, gravity addition of boron, which was used in Aurora incident. All credit to Mr. Mehta and his committee. There were several non-permanent equipment, including firefighting to boiler. The operator followed the emergency operating procedure verbatim, which saved the plant. In fact, the reactor was ready to start up next day. These are all the firsts which were there in India. As we all know, India has got double containment, some with metal liner. We have PAR, passive autocatalytic recombiners. The Fukushima recombiner needed power. TAPS dry well and suppression pools and large volume of pressure relief chamber in common chamber compared to Mark I containment, which Fukushima has got. So this can reduce the pressure and also reduce the hydrogen. And I have said PHWR has got the best core catcher. In Europe, they did what is called stress test, which incorporates all the changes that have been modified after the Fukushima incident, and the imported reactors. It was made sure that these are all carried out, including VVERs. With respect to seismicity, India is not in a subduction zone. Jaitapur maximum earthquake was 6.4, whereas it was 9 for Fukushima, and it is logarithmic scale. 6 to 7 means 10 times more severe. Fukushima had 0.5 G, and EPR claims it is designed for 0.6 G. On the western side, tsunami problem is less. MAP has stood Sumatra tsunami. PHWR for Narora stood 17 hours of station blackout, and it could have stood more. Imported reactors, no action is required by the operator for 3 days, and there are passive systems. Spent fuel is bay is seismically designed, but We needed to do some modifications for the cooling part of it. In the end, I will say an accident of the 3 accidents of the type is less probable in India. There will be renaissance. Next. Climate change, excellent performance, and unfortunate Ukraine war will have a profound effect on the global energy mix. Out of 15 nuclear countries, 12 are continuing. Sabbatical countries, which stopped nuclear, are all restarting. Out of the remaining 16 of the 31 countries, only Switzerland is thinking. For the first time in COP26, we got a seat, and COP27, which took place in Egypt just now, IAEA carried an exhibition. This is the first time in 27 years. WNA has told that there are 100 reactors in order, 55 under construction already, 300 more is proposed. Uranium market is seeing a bullish situation. New mines are getting started, old mines are getting revived. 162 million pounds production may increase to 206 million pounds by 2030 with a CAGR of 5%. IAEA and WNA has increased their projection to 792 gigawatts by 2050 from 393. This renaissance is by the people and policymakers. There have been polls in many countries. IAEA held a meeting of 800 policymakers and politicians who endorsed nuclear. There's a lot of funding coming place. I talked about Elon Musk and Bill Gates. EU has recognized nuclear as sustainable and funding will be available. Environmental, social, and governance funding will also be available. I said big chemical and like Dow Chemical, ArcelorMittal are pumping money. Even Bitcoin and crypto are funding. This is all because of the confidence they have. Coal to nuclear is the new buzzword now. Both US and Poland are converting many coal plant areas and then building nuclear plants there. It is quite logical because they have infrastructure, they have skilled manpower and many other things there. I have told you about non-grid uses, and nuclear is going to play a very important role in the non-grid uses. Irish guitarist David Evans, known as Edge of U2 brand, has endorsed nuclear, and a few DJs have also endorsed nuclear. This is music to our nuclear ears. Quickly on some problems of nuclear. Nuclear security is much more than physical protection. See change after 9/11 incident. In fact, nuclear security is defined as sabotage and unauthorized removal of nuclear material. It has to be taken care of in the design and later by administrative and management procedure. And we must have good security culture. An example of security culture is in one of the cities with a very dense population, somebody planted a plastic bag, very strange one, and nobody bothered about it for 3 days. If it is done in Israel, within seconds, the public will inform the security people that there is some strange things. But in power plants, in many power plants, the operator has got a snapshot of all the areas, and if a new material is there, he immediately finds. But he should have a good security culture. In nuclear, we have to be proactive, not reactive. The World Trade Center incident took us by surprise. Even in cyber security, we have to be proactive. Of course, we design postulating design basis threats and hope that on any unknown terrorist attacks also, safety will be achieved. Coming to cyber attacks, power plants are more vulnerable. Nuclear power plants are even more so. Kudankulam plant, as you know, was having a cyber attack. There are benefits of using Internet of Things, IoT, digital, artificial intelligence, but they are prone to cyber attacks. The air gap between information technology and operation technology has to be very strong. but somehow the attackers defeat this also. So one has to be very proactive. There are other issues. Can we go to the next, please?
Yes, sir.
Decommissioning. Each type of nuclear power plant has been decommissioned. It's been designed for easy decommissioning. Funds are available. It's a big business now. Decommissioning is not a normal cup of tea for everybody. There are specialized players. There are a lot of technological improvement coming in. Next. High-level radioactive waste. There are 450,000 tons of nuclear waste globally. If you have closed cycle it and follow pyroprocessing, it will be much less. Vitrification has been validated by the Gabon incident, which I pointed out. There is a lot of work done on partitioning and transportation. For example, spent fuel with half-life of 10,000 years, by reprocessing, it can be reduced to 1,000 years. And with partitioning and transportation to 300 years, and by some more treatment, it can be brought down to 100 years. The idea is to solve it in our own generation and not leave it to the next generation. There are special reactors, only fast reactors can be used for transportation. There is Breast 300, molten salt reactor. In fact, we can also use ADS. There is technical solution for it. But people are after us for establishing deep geological repository. Yucca Mountain never came up and then people were looking up to Yucca Mountain. The DGR for short is not a technical problem. It's a political problem. In fact, the experts claim that DGRs are not required now. They've calculated that it is required by 2083 for India, 2100 for USA. They say that we're developing the technology, solutions are there in front of us, but we want to take time for it. But as I told earlier, unless this waste management problem is solved, nuclear is not considered sustainable. Hence, for public acceptance sake, I think we must expedite this. Next, please. Life management is another issue. In fact, people say 40 years design life. There is no design life as per me. This 40 years is for calculating the tariff. For nuclear, both economic and safety is reckoned, not just economic as it is done for other plants. NPPs were reside for many reasons. One reason is they could not determine the residual life, like they did not put the coupons in the reactor vessel. So those reactors had to be shut down. They're not able to compete with gas in US. So several reactors for economic reasons have been shut down. And as I told you earlier, there are mandatory changes that are required. And the regulatory board does not approve. And it has been found that it is too costly. Cost benefit does not indicate mandatory changes will be beneficial. So they have been shut down. The long-term operation, extended operation is very safe, it is viable. And we have to have design coverage throughout. These reactors which have been extended, I would compare it to myself. I am 82 now, playing tennis, doesn't want to get defeated, making the younger people run. The long-term reactors, which are 40 years old, are as safe, having the same high capacity factors and behaving just like any other reactors. So this is very, very beneficial. Now, coming to the last but one subject, next please. Sustainable development. UN defined the sustainable development. Quickly, it reads securing economic development, social equity, and environmental protection. But 7 decades before, Gandhiji has defined it in his own words. He said the earth, the air, the land, the water are not inheritance from our forefathers, but on loan from our children. We have to hand over to them at least as good as it was handed over to us. UN has developed 17 sustainable development goals. I would like to just discuss SDG 7, which is affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy to all. And SDG 13, which is on climate change. Obviously, the developed countries are emphasizing on SDG 13 climate change, and developing countries like India are on SDG 7. We must give power to all the people. The correct balance will be to go by per capita emission. Per capita emission by India, by US is 14.4 CO2 per person. Russia 11.4, China 7.1, India 1.7. What have we done to the climate? I would like to quote Justice Srimati of Madras High Court. Mother Nature has the same legal status as the human being. For centuries, CO2 was 200 ppm. By 2030, it will go to 560 ppm. 2.1 trillion tons of CO2 has been emitted. As I told earlier, the Paris Agreement, in which more than 170 countries signed nationally determined contribution and agreed on adopting and mitigation measures. They are agreed on 1.5 degree, and people are arguing a lot, and why not have 2 degrees? This 1.5 degrees average. It is in fact going up by 6 degrees in some areas. No wonder we have heavy rain, extreme weather. There is a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. The global warming. Some people jokingly tell that global warming is due to Deepika Padukone and Priyanka Chopra, not old man like me. India is very active. There is a global solar mission, one sun, one world, one grid. It's the leader in many COP discussions. Let's go to energy transition, the last item. Next, please. In fact, I'm sorry, this is a figure in which nuclear plays in the various SDGs 1 to 17. You can have a look at it when you have time, please. Next.
Yeah.
Climate change mitigation, energy transition. My suggested plan, in fact, plan is taken from various other plans. Convert maximum number of energy consuming processes to electrical. Energy use is 73.2%, which includes transport. Transport emits 98% greenhouse gases. Agricultural 18.4%, industry 5.2%, waste 3.2%. In fact, if you convert all of them to electrical, there is a lot of increase in electrical capacity that is required. For example, for India alone, if you convert the transport into EVs and hydrogen, it will be more than the installed capacity of more than 170 countries in the world. There is a national hydrogen mission. As I told earlier, hydrogen is a game changer. It's a good energy carrier. India can be a very good hydrogen hub. A 1,000 megawatt nuclear power plant can generate 200,000 tons of air of nuclear power plant. 4 nuclear power plants in US has been designated specifically for hydrogen production. 700 million tons of hydrogen will be required by 2050, and the market is $10 trillion by 2050. We should decarbonize the fossil fuel until phase out. It can be done by carbon capture, utilization, and storage, which is costly now. Ultra supercritical coal plants, gas emits only 50%. There are several other measures. The transition has to be just. It is very emotional issue. It's a social issue. Many miners will be out of job. Reskilling of the job, restructuring of the economy. All these are involved. It's not an easy job. It has to be a just transition. 11.6, absolutely no progress. There are developing countries that are giving no money until now, even though it has been promised. Global teamwork is required. Some people even ask, is climate change a science at all? So people are doubting all the things and they're not cooperating. Public mobilization is required. nationally determined contribution has to be met. UN, in fact, is having a climate index. Energy storage in the form of thermal through sand. Sanat Kumar sent one energy storage through sand. Compressed air energy storage, hydrogen storage for long-term storage, renewable required storage, and pump storage also can be there. Next. Now, on the energy transition, before I come to conclusion, energy requirements will double due to the item 1 above. If you generate this through fossil, we will be back to square one. Energy demand is growing faster than renewable. However much renewable we have installed, it is still not reducing the CO2. In fact, I have compared in India, generation by nuclear and renewable. Renewable install capacity is 12 times that of nuclear. But nuclear is generating more and many months than renewable because of the difference in capacity factor. There will be design changes required to meet the flexibility that is required for nuclear to be operating on hybrid with renewable, steam bypass, robust fuel, load following, SMRs are what is called no follow. Natrium reactor can store some 345 megawatts for 5.5 hours. Islanding is a good modification. Nuclear, in fact, can accommodate more renewable. Nuclear and renewable are ideal twins. Conclusion, yes, climate change, excellent performance of NPPs, and the unfortunate Ukraine war will have profound effect on global energy mix. Majority of countries have voluntarily submitted commitments, a major step of that being energy transition. That is renaissance in nuclear, which is 100% sure now. All these would result in bulk green energy being supplied by nuclear, which can accommodate more of the other green source renewable in the grid. In addition, nuclear is eminently capable of flexible hybrid operation. These make nuclear to power the global energy transition. Nuclear should quickly resolve its issues, otherwise it will lose the opportunity that is being offered now.
Oh, gas to
Civil, civil nuclear induction is to be made easier. It's very stringent now. As I told earlier, accident anywhere is accident everywhere. Emerging countries, we should make that they operate their nuclear power plant safe, lest it stops the nuclear progress everywhere else. At the same time, we must encourage a lot of emerging countries to have nuclear consistent with the proliferation, safety, and many other issues. IAEA has done a good job of being able to supply independently the fuel that is required. Financing is a big problem. This has to be done. Ultimately, hand-holding of the people should be done. I would say that nuclear should be declared as a clean development mechanism. Nuclear energy is an ESG worth investment. And ultimately, I think we have to make sure that we solve the issues, make it safe, operate performance nicely, and get nuclear to solve the climate change problem. The last, safety as a value. In fact, this is what I feel it should be done. In fact, the question of giving priority to safety doesn't arise. Priorities keep changing, whereas value doesn't change. It's more permanent. When you are hungry, the priority is to eat. But when you are full, that priority will be 4 or 5 or even lost. Whereas good nutrition as a value is permanent. Safety and production are so much intermingled, you cannot separate them. Even if your wife, when she is cutting vegetable, she cannot say, I will first cut vegetable and then take care of safety. She is prone to cut her finger. In fact, safety and production are not mutually exclusive. The best power plants are those which are the safest. So safety as a value should be one of the company values, one of the values in the organization. It should be in the head of everybody. Then only we will be able to achieve the required safety. Thank you. Questions, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for that enlightening talk. Dharneji, can you take over?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, sir. I didn't want to miss your lecture, and I'm happy I could manage it. It was a fantastic lecture. In fact, so many people, most of the audience, either retired or serving, is in the field of nuclear still. In spite of that, your lecture gave a lot many more things. It was a multidimensional lecture. In fact, I would say that, like Stephen Hawking says, there are 27 dimensions in string theory. We only knew about 3 dimensions in nuclear, but you have expanded it to so many dimensions and gave us right from 3-stage power program, which we all know, right up to the hydrogen economy, how it should go, and the market of the hydrogen, everything you covered so nicely. It was a lovely lecture and quite enlightening. Thank you very much. And as you said, we will go for a question answer session. I don't see any hand raised. Okay, Sanat Kumarji. Yes, Sanat Kumarji. Please.
Thank you, Darne. In fact, you made me feel that my lecture is better than what I gave.
No, no, I could not explain it as good, sir. No, it was much better than that.
The questions. I hope I can hear.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Chini?
Yes, sure.
Basic. Through your lecture, I learned so many things that I did not know before. So that is for true. That is for sure. However, I would like to point out one small area, if you like. There are physicists here who can probably talk better than I do. It is like this. If you want to convert thorium to a fissile element, you need neutrons. Neutron, everything you need. Even for 232 grams of thorium to be converted to 233 grams of uranium-233, you need 10 to the power of 24 neutrons, provided each neutron is taken in a thorium atom. That doesn't happen. So we need a neutron economy. And PHWR is exactly the one that provides that neutron economy. As little as neutrons as possible should be lost. These enriched uranium reactors are all wasteful of, in my opinion, of neutrons. So according to me, whatever else the world may say, for us, we should have, unless of course you find a way of converting thorium to uranium by ADS or any other method. That's okay, that's possible. But unless we do that, we should proceed on what Dr. Baba originally wanted, because I think it is correct. You need neutrons. The problem is, somebody has told me that there is an issue in reprocessing. And if that is the case, I don't know too much about it, but if that is the case, that is the one that we should solve and get on with it. Ultimately, last point is that I feel that ultimately, when stage 3 comes, you will have PHWRs with thorium and uranium-233, because they are essentially more safe than these PWR things. Anyway, these are my opinions. Probably you can comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Of course, in addition to PHWR, the fast reactors also can convert thorium. I feel that I am a little bit impatient, like everybody else. I think we should go for ADS now.
Fast reactors also require enriched uranium. Enriched uranium is what I'm objecting to. Plutonium,
yeah.
may have whatever you want.
Okay. But enriched uranium plants is the same idea of why Tarapur was imported. It just to increase the percentage. In fact, by 2070, if you want to weed out a fossil plant, which is 70% of the install capacity, can we meet with renewables alone? Can we meet with our own reactors alone? Can we meet with, of course, luckily we have gone from 200 to 700. So it is a question of how fast we'll be able to make sure that we have power to all, which will mean from 3 lakh megawatts, which is installed capacity now, to 8 lakh megawatts, even for a per capita consumption of 5,000 kilowatts, which is very, very low. So I think imported reactors have to be seen just as an additionality. 1650 megawatt, if we have 8 reactors, it will be a fantastic addition to percentage contribution to the total grid.
Maybe may I disagree with one area. As far as I know, Dr. Baba wanted Tarapur reactors to be bought on a turnkey basis. Mr. Mehta would know better than I do. But Tarapur reactors were bought by Dr. Baba only for the purpose of India getting experience in setting up and running a reactor, not for power production per se. It was that, okay, we'll have a reactor, everybody will know about control rods, various other things. We'll train people to operate reactors. That was what. So Dr. Baba was not interested in going in for enriched uranium reactors all the way through. Thank you.
No, we could get experience in PHWR too. Why import?
No, at the time when a global tender was issued, Canada did not quote because they did not have, it is there in Dr. Srinivasan's book, they did not have a reactor which was operating. One of our conditions was you must have a reactor that is operating. Because only GE's reactor was working. So that is how it went, and of course they were cheaper also at that time. Canadians, instead of giving that, they said, okay, we'll give you no why. That is why we have no why now today. Canadian collaboration got us no why. Otherwise, there was only know how.
Good, Sanath. As we told earlier, let us agree to disagree.
Okay. The next question was raised by Dr. Sandeep Shrotriya. Would you like to ask your question, sir?
Sir, actually, I'd like to ask you, can you give some light on SMR for Indian point of view? What is the future?
I somehow felt that SMRs are not okay for India. In fact, just now we discussed about increasing the percentage from say 2.8% to at least 5%. India has a large installed capacity of almost 3.5 lakh megawatts. So 5% will mean a lot in megawatts. Of course, we want to go to 22,400 by 2031 through 21 reactors. But the hint could be that SMRs can be built within 4 years, whereas we've seen many reactors which is being built around the world, in Finland, in US, which is almost taking 10 to 11 years. Maybe it's an indirect hint to us that we're building it too slow and we're losing the opportunity that is being offered by climate change. And if we have SMRs, then at least you're establishing fast to replace coal plants. However, you replace only 300 megawatts, whereas if you have 1650 megawatt, you're replacing 1650. So I think we must have to go to both to satisfy people with SMRs so that they are commissioned fast. People probably are a little bit impatient at the slow pace. I feel this is the reason.
Okay,
But
thank you.
SMRs are good reactors. They are advanced reactors. They have passive systems and they can be built fast. I have worked with New Scale quite a bit. I've gone through their design in detail. But things are still slow. 2027 is their plan, and I feel it can be 2025.
Can I make a small point, please?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure, sir.
Mehtaji, yes.
Yes, I think there is a lot of confusion about the SMR. SMR is not substitute for the main reactor system. It is only for the places where there are remote areas where we are not even today connected with the grid. That's the one thing that so we can have a self-standing, a SMR which can be cooled by natural circulation, and it can have a very good safety system therefore. It can be assembled and sent to the site, and the life of this such a reactor could be about 5 years for refueling. So I think this is not to be saying that this is substitute for the main reactor system. Therefore. This is a addition. This is a situation where we have to go for a remote situation which we are not reaching today. I see that many of the places which are not connected with the national grid even today. That's the one thing that's and the thing is that we should exploit our own development work and the infrastructure that we have got. The main compact reactor design already which is there, up to 60 or 80 megawatt electrical can be fully exploited, and you don't have to wait for so many years for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Further, I would say that Poland is considering building SMRs near coal mines to supply all the power supply for the coal mines. This is in continuation what with Mr. Mehta has mentioned.
Yes, sir. Dr. Das, SK Das, you can ask the question.
Hello, sir. First of all, thank you for the beautiful lecture. It was really informative.
Put on your video. Put on your
yeah.
video.
Also, sir, I am actually an undergrad student.
Pucha.
Yeah. So my doubt, more of a suggestion would be like, shouldn't we focus on educating the students of the country regarding nuclear energy so that the public opinion would be better about us?
Yeah. So you should go through our website. So you will get a lot of information about the entire chain of nuclear, including the power, energy, societal benefits, then waste management, radiation. All these topics are covered in those YouTubes. So you should.
Yes.
It is meant for public. Not. It's a very simplified way of explaining the science and engineering about nuclear. So I would suggest you should go through the website.
Actually, yeah, I agree with that. But the problem is, I came here because of my personal interest in nuclear energy. But a lot of people don't really know about this. So,
yeah.
What should be done?
I would like to add to what Mr. Ramarao told. There is a World Youth University, I think, centered in Seoul. Also, in US, several universities are being given money to develop and do research on molten salt reactors, on many other reactors. Unfortunately, it's not yet possible probably here, but if possible, we must do it here. In fact, if youth are getting interested in nuclear, it's the best thing that can happen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Sanjay Pandey, please, your question. Dr. Pandey?
Oh, there's something in the chat box.
I see. The Dr. Pandey is asking, can we skip stage 2 program and directly go on to stage 3? What is the way?
One way is through ADS. I am thinking whether I am sometimes confused whether we should go to ADS, but of course, if you produce power and at the same time convert uranium, thorium to U-233, it is a double advantage. So this is one way to go to stage 3. Of course, a little bit of stage 3 is there in the form of Kamini, but that's very, very minuscule and it is not of a commercial situation there. I don't see any other way. In fact, I am a little bit ignorant on it. If anybody else can answer, please go ahead.
Shall we request Dr. Grover to come in? He's there. Dr. Grover? Yeah, he left.
Yeah. Let's go to the next question. Dr. Thangavel. Would you like to ask the question? Dr. Thangavel?
Yes, sir. I have given in the text box.
Yeah, if you want to ask, you can ask. Otherwise, I will read it out.
Yeah, please read it out, sir.
Yeah. He's asking the question saying
Sir,
that.
actually, I am a AMD person, retired
Okay.
geologist.
Yeah.
So I used to interact in these meetings. I am listening as and when I get some time.
Sure.
Sir, this we have a lot of thorium resources in India. So we are always telling that using thorium is better than using uranium, because it is easy to handle thorium and emissions. I mean that fission, what do you call that? So, but still we are not progressing much in developing that ASWPR, but still we are in the initial stage only. We have not made it commercial. For so many years, it is being done. So if we come out, if we have a breakthrough in that, definitely we can use our huge thorium resources in the production of nuclear power. It is my opinion. It is AMD's opinion also.
Yeah, in fact, there is not much time. Otherwise, I can repeat what some of them told about thorium. It's just like 9 months that is needed for delivery of the children, baby. No politician can say, why don't you do it in 4 months? So Sanat Kumar had pointed out the whole process of converting thorium from fertile to fissile. It takes time. In fact, one of the jokes, quickly I will tell that somebody asked a palmist about his future. He said, "You're not going to come up." Then he said, "No, you see, your son is going to have a little bit better, but it will take, he's not going to be recognized. Whether your grandson is going to get Padma Shri and all those things." Okay, let me do it. Then he asked, "Are you married?" He said, "No, I am not married yet." So this takes time, it's difficult unless you go through ADS.
Sir, sorry for interruption.
There's also limited thorium conversion.
Yeah.
So one has to realize that you just cannot shorten this in spite of the best efficiency. But at the same time, I must agree with you, there is scope for improvement. On thorium technology, a lot of work has been done in IG car. I didn't have time, otherwise I could have brought out 2 or 3 pages of the work that is being done in IG car. They are also anxiously waiting for fissile thorium in U-233, but they have done a lot of job on reprocessing, on understanding the thorium technology, and IG car, as you know, is dedicated for that stage.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Actually, since there's a time limit for childbirth, 10 months, similarly, in our research also, we should take some specific time for us to come out of that research part in the HWR.
Yes.
Yeah, your point is well taken.
Totally understand.
We'll put it to our designers.
Yeah.
I
Because everything for everything time is fixed. So within that we should probably, while formulating this program, our scientists might have formulated a certain time frame. So whether we are already exceeded the time frame or well within the time frame. That's what I wanted to know. So how many years it will
fully
take?
agreed, Senthil.
No, you are from the same fraternity, so you know what it is. You know what is nuclear is not not an easy technology.
Of course, sir. Yes, that is true, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other question? Dr. Ramarao, there is a query whether this talk is available on website.
Yeah, it will be available on the website.
Okay.
The next 2 days, it will be uploaded on the YouTube of our INS website. You can visit and see.
Can I hazard a guess?
Yes.
As to avoiding stage 2. Okay, I'm just giving a thought. Constructing a research type of reactor using thorium, uranium, or any other fissile material is different from making a power reactor out of it. Because when you are talking about the power reactor, so many other control requirements, etc., coming. So I'm talking about just the physics of it. So now Americans had constructed uranium-233 reactor long ago, which they were wanting to use it. In fact, that was the first MSR. They were wanting to use it. They were calling it aircraft project. What did they do? They got thorium. They made uranium-233 using plutonium made from Canada and elsewhere. They had plutonium generating reactors. Uranium was like Cyrus or Dhruva. They are having plutonium producers, and they take the plutonium and got it. So if you want to do that, that type of transition from stage 1 to stage 3 might be possible, because once you want to use thorium, you need a fissile material. Whether it is uranium-233 or uranium-235, it doesn't matter. It could be anything. It could be plutonium. So that is what I wanted to say. It is feasible, but in the economics of it, I do not know. Constructing a power reactor is a totally different story. Thank you.
One more thing which I would like to add, the advanced heavy water reactor, which is one of the designs, is a little bit of a compromise between stage 1 and stage 3. It can be loaded with thorium, and for 10 years, you don't have to load again. It gets converted and start using power from the converted ones. But at best, it is a compromise, not like what Sanath has told.
Okay. Any other question from audience? Sir, otherwise I have got 2 small questions. You just told that for a deep repository, the research says that India will be requiring it in 2083, while US will be requiring it in 2100. Now, I thought that the US will be requiring it earlier because of their open cycle, and we will be requiring it later because of the closed cycle.
Very
How
true.
do you manage this?
These are calculated on the basis of safe storage methods that are available now, like 10 to 11 years in the bay, then storage in either dry storage or wet storage in AFRs, and all these things. And they have made provisions for it. But as I told you, that they must have a solution fast. But at the same time, I must mention that there are other methods which are being worked out in various areas, which probably will make DGR also a little bit redundant. The idea is to make sure that it is solved within 50 years. There's a lot of work going on PNT, not post and telegraph, but partition and transmutation. There's a lot of special reactors that is coming up, which can use burnt fuel. And a lot of work is done. And this is what is the complaint given by nuclear technologies, that you allow us to do research on this and come up with a good way. Don't try to rush us up into faster, more non-elegant solutions.
Okay. Second question is with respect to EPR. With looking at what is happening at Olkiluoto, the way problems are arising, the way the delays are happening, how do you feel that EPR is feasible for India?
No, one lucky break is all teething troubles are getting solved elsewhere. A lot of problems with EPR. In fact, any new folk design will have problems. There have been problems with EP1000 also. But the main issue is how to convince people that we can ultimately be able to sell at 6.5 rupees per kilowatt per unit. Of course, we have put a condition for imported reactors that the tariff should be comparable to the nearest conventional reactor of the same regime or same model, like advanced one, supercritical ones. but it is very difficult to meet this by foreign reactors. So it's more a question of carrying the people for a little bit higher cost for long-term advantage. Politically, as you know, it's all mixed. What one party wants to do, it doesn't want other party to do. I'm sorry to say that. But, so it's more of a PA political situation, and commercial discussions can go on, but I feel it should have been time bound. It's not time bound now.
Yeah. It's a never ending situation going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So if there are no more questions, I will hand over the baton to Dr. Ramarao again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dharneji. I should thank profusely to our speaker today who gave an excellent talk. And I have been, when I read his article in the newsletter, special newsletter, I thought he would have a lot of things to tell us and prove. So thank you, sir. Thank you once again. And I thank our INS President, Shri S.K. Mehta, for being with us today, like every time. And I also thank our EC members for continuing to support this INS important program of webinar. I should also thank our HR Secretary, Shri Mittal, and Shimjit Rajgopal of DARC for sending the communication of the webinar to all the people. So I thank everybody who joined today, and I wish you all a happy day today. And maybe this is the last webinar, I think, of this old committee. When the next committee will come up with the newer program, the future program of this type would be communicated to all the members. So thanking you all once again. I take your permission to stop the recording. And
I want to thank everybody
please.
from the old executive committee and the office bearers, their participation and their help in this. Thank you a lot. And I wish the new committee a lot of active moments.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.